Hello, how's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be jumping into Daniel chapter 6. I got to change that up top. But first, let me make sure we're not lagging here. So give me 1 second. All right, we're good. All right. Sorry I was a bit late. Where am I? Got caught up with work stuff. Edit. There we go. Now that green screen is working. Today we're going to be touching on a classic story in the Bible. Up there with David and Goliath, Samson and Delilah. We got Daniel and the lion's den. I mean, we touched on a pretty classic story on Friday as well with the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, right? But anyways, Daniel chapter 6 to 8. Let me get the text up on screen here. Daniel 6. Okay. All right, there we go. Perfect. All right, we're all set now. So, Daniel chapter 6. Yesterday, just get a little, not yesterday, on Friday, since we didn't read over the weekend. What did we last talk about? We talked about the message that came to Babylon through the writing on the wall. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. We read about what that meant. That it actually might have been written in what was it, Aramaic? I think that's what we said. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. I think that's what it said. I think that's what we, because we saw a bunch of, well, anyways, check Friday's video out. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I'm pretty sure it was Aramaic, but we weren't sure if, not we, but we generally, they're not sure if it's if it was written in Aramaic or whether it was written in this heavenly celestial language and was translated to Aramaic. Either way, I think it was Aramaic. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, check out Friday's video. That was actually really interesting. But we're going to continue on with chapter 6 today. The plot against Daniel.
It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps, to be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss.
And just a reminder, remember yesterday we were talking about Belshazzar. We were also talking about how that could have been not the son of Nebuchadnezzar, but maybe the grandson, because in those days when we refer to father, we can refer to an ancestor, and a lot of the lineage that we were looking at, Belshazzar was not directly after Nebuchadnezzar, but talking about Darius was a Mede, right? Darius the Mede received the kingdom being about 62 years old after Belshazzar was slain. So Babylon is not in the hands of a Babylonian anymore.
Satraps, to be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel
That's interesting how Daniel continued his post. I mean, I don't even know if he had a post under Belshazzar, because Belshazzar wasn't even aware of Daniel up until this point. But he did have a post under Nebuchadnezzar for sure. Let me see what my Bible's got to say here. Daniel had previously been appointed a governor in Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar. Here he was governor in the new Medo-Persian reign. So Darius might have, after what Daniel just did, right, with the writing on the wall, he came to light again. I don't know if he continued his position as governor throughout after Nebuchadnezzar's reign or not. But I would assume not, because Belshazzar didn't know about him. But it looks like he's continuing his position as governor under Darius.
Would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm.
Whoa.
So the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find no charge or fault.
One big promotion right
because
there.
he was faithful. Nor was there any error or fault found in him. Then these men said,
"We shall not find any charge against this Daniel, unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God."
So
it's like when Babylon came and invaded Israel, they set a governor over Jerusalem to rule over the place. In the same way, now Medo-Persia is coming to Babylon, and Darius is thinking, hey, let me set Daniel to rule over the place. You see, like, the tides are starting to turn now, because remember, God said he's using Babylon as a mechanism to rain down his judgment upon Israel. But that judgment is going to come back on Babylon, because it's a pagan nation. Remember, we went one by one through all the surrounding nations, and now it's Babylon's turn.
So these governors and satraps thronged before the king.
"King Darius, live forever. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisors, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, so that..."
I'm literally imagining them speaking as spring onions. If you ever seen VeggieTales, that episode of the Daniel and the Lion's Den episode.
"It cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does
I
not
believe all the
alter."
magicians were spring onions.
Therefore King Darius signed the written decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home. And in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day, and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree.
"Have you not signed a decree that every man who petitions any god or man within 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions?"
They're trying
The
to
thing
trap
is
Daniel.
true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter.
"That Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition..."
This makes so much more sense, because in a lot of the movies and TV shows and in VeggieTales, we're talking about Nebuchadnezzar was still the king here in the story. In a lot of the media, right? So I always growing up, I always thought like, wait, and even in stories and stuff. Why? Wait, like how could Nebuchadnezzar just forget that Daniel worshipped God, right? Because Nebuchadnezzar had an experience with God and all that stuff. So how could he forget? Why would he sign a decree like this, knowing that Daniel worships his God and he's not going to sway in any way? Well, because we're not dealing with Nebuchadnezzar. We're not dealing with Nebuchadnezzar's son. We're not Belshazzar. We're not dealing with the Babylonian. We're talking about a brand new guy who just came in, took over, a Medo-Persian, Darius. So a completely different guy. He wouldn't know Daniel's situation at all. So that's interesting. That clears it up right there. That makes a whole lot more sense. I don't know why. Why would all these movies and TV shows and storybooks or adapting what is here in the Bible, why would they not point out that this is a completely different king, Darius? Because that clears it up completely right here. Makes a whole lot more sense.
Does not alter.
That Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day.
And the king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men approached the king.
Know, O king, that it is the law of the Medes and Persians that no decree or statute which the king establishes may be changed.
So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel,
Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you.
So that line, right? I'm assuming why a lot of these movies and TV shows and all that stuff kept Nebuchadnezzar instead of Darius is because of this line, right? He had respect for Daniel's God. But then, like I said, it doesn't make sense because Nebuchadnezzar would have known, and he wouldn't have written this line. Written this law. So, but now after being made aware of Daniel and his God, Darius is showing respect. So, what is the Medo-Persian relationship to the God of Israel? Because Cyrus the Great, who later becomes the king of Medo-Persia, he frees the Israelites from Babylon and takes them back home. He sends them back home, right? He has respect for their God. Why? Let me see if my Bible has anything to say about that. Daniel 6 verse 16. Nope, nothing. Let me look up a commentary. Darius had faith, and it was faith born out of born out of Daniel's trust in the Lord. The idea was, I tried my best to save you, Daniel, but I failed. Now it is up to your God. You serve continually. This made Daniel's testimony. Many of us occasionally display godly character and wisdom before the world, but counteract the good by then being bad. Daniel's testimony was made by continual service. This may have been the king sealed it. This may have been to protect Daniel as much as to make sure someone didn't rescue Daniel. Darius knew that Daniel had powerful enemies who might kill him if the lions didn't. Okay, so maybe Darius didn't have some respect for the God of Israel, But he had respect for Daniel and his position, and he had respect for Daniel's obedience and his faith and his continual service to his God. He saw that, the discipline that Daniel had, how he was faithfully serving his God, and he respected that. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." Or he could have said that in a sarcastic tone. He was like, "Hey, I signed this decree. You should be worshiping me. Now, yeah, this God you've been worshiping, well, he better deliver you. He's going to deliver you from this. You decided to worship that God, so let him save you." You could look at it that way as well. He might have been saying that in a sarcastic manner instead of out of respect. Well, we'll get more context as we continue to read here.
The king spoke, saying to Daniel,
Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you.
Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lords, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king went to his palace and spent the...
So the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. So he is intent on... Okay. Actually, no. I can see what this commentary was saying. How that the purpose might not be changed. So you can't be killed by any other means. If God saves him from the lions, he can't be killed by any other means, like ensure Daniel's death. Or you could take it as, I want this guy dead. There's no way out of it. He's going to be killed by these lions. No one's changing that. So again, it works both ways. You could take it as if he was being respectful, or he was being sarcastic, and this flows with either of those interpretations.
night fasting.
Maybe we'll get more context as we continue on, and we can derive a clear interpretation, one interpretation from this.
And no musicians were brought before him. Also, his sleep went from him.
Yeah, I bet.
Then the king
Are
arose
you going to
very
sleep with a
early
bunch
in
of
the
lions
morning
right next to you?
and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting
All right, right here. Let him say it.
voice to Daniel,
Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?
The fact that he ran to the lion's den and then said, servant of the living God, makes me feel like he wasn't being sarcastic and he was being respectful.
O King, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O King, I have done no wrong before you.
Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God. And the king gave the command, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. And the lions
Not just them, but their children and their wives, their entire family. So their lineage is gone. Wow. That's a severe punishment.
Powered them and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote,
To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom
lions were down there
Men
waiting
must
for
tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth.
This might have been the first
Who has
domino,
delivered Daniel from the power of the lions.
the freeing of
So this Daniel prospered in the
the
reign
children
of
of Israel from
Darius
Babylon.
and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian.
That was good. Ooh. This is going to be interesting right now.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head while on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, telling the main facts.
I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings.
Before we get into that, the four winds seem to refer to the winds from every direction, covering the whole earth. We've been referencing these four winds quite a bit in the Bible so far. The Great Sea is probably a reference to the Mediterranean Sea, and we've seen that before as well. Here used figuratively of the nations of the world.
I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth.
Back it up a little bit.
Beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man. And a man's heart was given to it.
Oh.
And suddenly, another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one.
Let me read what my Bible's got to say about this. This is interesting. So, it is commonly recognized that these two animals are talking about the lion and the eagle. These two animals are the king of beasts, the king of birds, respectively, a fitting description of Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire. There has been almost universal agreement from the early centuries until today that this beast represented Babylon. It is also agreed that the vision of chapter 7 and that of chapter 2 speak of the same four kingdoms. And we talked about that when we were discussing chapter 2. Plucked off the wings is a reference to Nebuchadnezzar's humiliation. A
second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side.
But actually, before we get into that, let's go through the commentary while we're reading this. So let me pull up duplicate. Yep, this commentary is talking about the Mediterranean Sea as well. The four winds, some see the winds as a description of the sovereign power of God striving with men. Others suggest the four winds were satanic forces, as mentioned in Revelation 7:1. Whoa. Okay, so what says the four winds of heaven, right? The four great beasts came up from the sea. Four large ferocious animals emerged from the great sea, each one distinct from the other. The first was like a lion. The first beast was more majestic than any of the following beasts. Lions and eagles are kings of their realms. Okay, so similar interpretation to my Bible. But this majestic beast was humbled. Wings were plucked off, and made human. A man's heart was given to it. So if you were talking, my Bible said it was symbolizing Nebuchadnezzar. And sort of the reverse happened to Nebuchadnezzar. He went from man to beast, and this beast is going from beast to man. A little later, Daniel tells us that these 4 beasts are 4 kingdoms ruling over the earth. The first kingdom is the Babylonian Empire, represented by a lion and an eagle. This fits in well with the majesty and authority of Nebuchadnezzar in his reign over the empire of Babylon. Remember, even though it's the consensus is pretty much that this is Nebuchadnezzar and this is Babylon, right? It's not 100%, right? This is still someone's interpretation. Jeremiah used both the lion and the eagle as pictures of Nebuchadnezzar. And Babylon's winged lions can be seen in the British Museum today. Winged lion. It reminds me of like a griffin, right? Oh no, it's sort of the opposite. It's like an eagle head with a lion's body. This was a lion with eagle wings. Dang, that looks cool. That looks really cool. So it's a winged lion. Okay, let's keep going here.
And a man's heart was given to it.
Oh, let me see. Does it say anything about the man's heart in this? No.
And suddenly, another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it,
"Arise, devour much flesh."
After this I looked.
Pause it. Let's see what my Bible's got to say. If the lion with eagle's wings represents Babylon, the bear, in line with Nebuchadnezzar's first dream, represents Babylon's successor, the Medo-Persian Empire. Raised up on one side suggests that Persians were greater and more powerful than the Medes. The 3 ribs represent the 3 kingdoms that Medo-Persians devoured: Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. That ties together pretty nicely. 3 ribs, 3 kingdoms. The second beast didn't have the majestic bearing of either the lion or the eagle. A bear is slower, stronger, and more crushing than a lion. And this bear had a ferocious appetite for conquest. The bear represented the Medo-Persian Empire, succeeding the Babylonian Empire. And if the bear does represent the Medo-Persian Empire, I feel like that would nullify the interpretation of the original, the dream with the statue. There's an interpretation of that dream that we saw where it was the Medes and the Persians were 2 separate sections of the statue, not combined into one. So if with the bear here being one, that would make more sense. I would equate that to it being one on the original, the first dream with the statue. If they're both of the same thing. So the bear represents the Medo-Persian Empire succeeding the Babylonian Empire. In this partnership between the Medes and the Persians dominated the relationship. Most think 3 ribs represent their 3 great military conquests, Babylon, Egypt, and Lydia. The slow, crushing armies of the Medo-Persian Empire are well known. They simply overwhelmed their opponents with their superior size and strength. The Medes and Persians are compared to a bear on account of their cruelty and the thirst after blood, a bear being a most voracious and cruel animal. Arise, devour much flesh. The command to arise and devour much flesh indicates the extreme cruelties often practiced by Persians and the wide extent of their conquests. Liberal commentators have vested interest in identifying the bear with only the Median state and not the combined Medo-Persian Empire. And this interpretation here would go with the interpretation that the Medes and the Persians were separated on the statue. They assigned the 3rd beast to the Persian Empire and the 4th to Alexander's Greek Empire, so as to remove, even for a 2nd century author, any element of predictive prophecy. Their analysis doesn't fit. There are many good reasons why the 2nd kingdom could not be exclusively the Median kingdom. The Median, let's see. The Median kingdom did not follow the Babylonian in historical sequence, but was contemporary with it. Even rising to strength before the Neo-Babylonian period. The Median kingdom never had a world position ranking with the Persian, Grecian, or Babylonian empires. Okay, and so this is aligning with the idea that the Persians dominated the relationship. The motivation for the interpretation is solely to remove any reference to Rome and to divinely predictive prophecy.
Much flesh.
After this I looked, and there was a manner, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
Let me look up a picture too. Vision of the 4 beasts. Hey, that's the dinosaur from the movie Dinosaur. Isn't that an iguanodon? Wonderful Photoshop there. Let me see what my Bible's got to say first. If the 2nd beast of Daniel's dream represents the Medo-Persian Empire, the leopard represents Greece. 4 symbolizes universality. Wings are synonymous with speed. The Greeks, under the leadership of Alexander the Great, rapidly conquered the known world. 4 heads describes heads of the government. After Alexander's death, his empire was divided among his generals into 4 different parts: Macedonia, Egypt, Syria, and Thrace. The leopard was known for its sudden, unexpected attacks. This one was especially swift and clever. The 4 wings and the 4 heads. Each animal is mighty, but dominates its prey in different ways. The lion devours, the bear crushes, and the leopard springs upon its prey. The leopard represented the Greek Empire. Alexander the Great quickly conquered the civilized world by age 28. Nothing in the history of the world was equal to the conquests of Alexander, who ran through all the countries from Illyricum and the Adriatic Sea to the Indian Ocean and the river Ganges, and in 12 years subdued part of Europe and all of Asia. After his death, his empire was divided into 4 parts, 4 heads. Specifically, the 4 heads were Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy, who inherited Alexander's domain after his death. The Babylonian Empire dominated in Daniel's day. One might have guessed, especially in the reign of Belshazzar, that the next empire would be the Medo-Persian Empire. But how could Daniel know that the next empire would be like a leopard in its rise and prominence, that it would be divided into 4 parts? This shows a plain principle. God knows the future and reveals certain details of the future through his prophets. It shows that God lives outside our domain, that our time domain, and can see the future as well as the past. He sees the whole parade of human history, not just the part passing in front of a single spectator. This immediately, reading that immediately brings the question of when God anointed King Saul to be king, he regretted it. After he anointed King Saul, he regretted it. Why would he regret anointing King Saul to be king if he knew the future and saw the whole parade of human history? Why would he regret it? You see what I'm saying? Just a question. What do you guys think about that? The proof of fulfilled prophecy is exceptionally persuasive. No wonder Peter says, "We have the prophetic word confirmed, which you do well to heed as a light that shines in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts."
After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there, in this horn, were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words.
Let's see what my Bible's got to say. And just so you guys know, this is a New King James Version Bible. It's a study Bible by I don't know, it's just like the official New King James Version Study Bible. Oh, okay. The full colored edition of the Thomas Nelson Study Bible. Okay, so the 4th beast did not look like any known animal. Since this beast follows Greece, it may represent Rome. The horns here represent rulers. Even though the little one begins small, it would become the greatest of all. That's all it talked about it. Okay. Let's see what this commentary has to say. Yeah, I'm curious. I wonder why I didn't touch into any other details. Okay. The 4th beast, dreadful and terrible. The 4th beast was indescribable and uniquely horrific in its power and conquest. In the ancient world, horns expressed the power and fearsomeness of an animal. I mean, it does. I feel like that does today too. The 4th beast was so strong it had 10 horns. Different people pictured this in different ways. Some suggest that the 10 horns were actually 2 5-pointed antlers rather than 10 separate horns. In historical fulfillment, the 4th beast represents the Roman Empire, which was the largest, strongest, most unified, and enduring of them all. There is an unmistakable correspondence between these horns and the 10 toes of the dream image. And the mention, let me pull that up also. Nebuchadnezzar. Right? That's what we're talking about. Another horn, a little one, a mouth speaking pompous words. Among the 10 horns, 3 are replaced by one horn that was conspicuous for its dominance, before whom 3 of the horns were plucked out by the roots. Intelligence, eyes like the eyes of a man, and its boastful talk, speaking pompous words. No interpretation. So, if this is the Roman Empire, and the horns are like leaders, but this one is saying the 10 are these kingdoms. Divided papal Rome. Let's look it up. The final beast. The 4th beast has 10 horns. This represents the Roman Empire, a mighty kingdom that indeed crushed all its foes. So Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts provide a prophetic look at future world events. Looking back from our perspective, we see these events as world history and can easily see the correlation between each beast and world empire. However, there was more to Daniel's vision, and some of it is yet future, even for us. Daniel's attention is drawn to the destructive 4th beast, and he ponders the meaning of its 10 horns. Then a smaller horn begins to grow from the midst of the 10. As the little horn emerges from the beast, 3 of the original horns are plucked out by the roots. Daniel sees the little horn has eyes like the eyes of a human being, and a mouth that spoke boastfully. The proud, boastful words of the little horn continue until the Ancient of Days sets up a day. What am I reading? The proud, boastful words of the little horn continue until the Ancient of Days sets up a day of judgment. At that time, the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. This is in contrast to the fate of the other 3 beasts, who lose their authority but were not immediately destroyed. The 4th beast is killed and its body burned. A son of man comes from. Let's keep reading first, because it looks like we're jumping ahead a little bit.
Whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots, and there, in this horn, were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words.
Who do you guys think this is? Who is that little horn?
I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him.
I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. Let me look up what my Bible's got to say. Ancient of Days is a reference to God, the Father, as certified by the submission of the one like the Son of Man to him, and his role in judgment. Fiery flame symbolizes judgment. Its wheels refers to the chariot in which God rides to battle to exercise his sovereignty and to appear as judge. I watched till thrones were put in place, multiple thrones. For who? And the Ancient of Days was seated. So God sat in one of these thrones, but who filled the rest?
Issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. I watched then because of the sound of the pompous words which the horn was speaking. I watched till the beast was slain, and its body destroyed and given to the burning flame.
The book was opened. This is reminding me of like end times here. If this is talking about Judgment Day, that means this beast is going to rule up until then, if it's still alive here, you know?
As for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion
Which would mean it's still in power today. In some capacity.
As for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He came to the Ancient of Days.
One like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. So a human-like figure coming from the clouds of heaven. So Daniel must have been like, whoa, what's going on here? You know? But to us, that makes a lot of sense.
Clouds of heaven. He came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Then to him was given dominion and a glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away. And his kingdom, the one which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit within my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near to one of those who...
That's crazy. Let me see what the Bible's got to say. That's really cool imagery right there. The horn. Okay, so my Bible is giving sort of basic information here. It's talking about the thousands and 10,000s are the reference to the innumerable servants. The books record the names and deeds of those who will be judged. See Revelation 20, right? The book of judgment. The horn here is the same as the one in verse 8. Yep. The burning flame. The idea that the fate of the wicked is fiery destruction is apparent in the Old Testament, but reaches its fullest expression in the New Testament. The rest of the beasts is a reference to the three beasts, yeah? Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. They had their dominion taken away. Though these nations passed away, their dominion was inherited by their respective successors. A season and a time is an idiom and for an indefinite period. The Son of Man is Semitic for human being. So Daniel saw one like a son of man, like a human being coming. But yeah, we know who that is. Indicating he is not a man in the strict sense, but rather the perfect representation of humanity. Jewish and Christian expositors have identified this individual as the Messiah. Jesus himself used this name to emphasize his humanity as the incarnate Son of God, referring to himself as the Son of Man. coming with the clouds. John used the same expression to speak of Jesus coming in judgment. But my question was, but what are those thrones? Why are there so many thrones? Why are there multiple thrones? And we only saw God sitting down on the thrones. I watched till thrones were put in place. The King James Version poorly translates this as thrones were cast down. The New King James Version corrected this and indicates that thrones were established. When the Apostle John saw heaven, he also saw thrones, but he also saw those who sat on the thrones. 24 elders described in Revelation 4:4. Daniel made no mention of these elders, perhaps because the 24 elders represent the church, and the church was an unrevealed mystery to Old Testament saints. 24 elders represents the church. How many denominations are there? I should do a whole video on Christian denominations. That'll be cool. The Ancient Days is obviously God, but there is debate as to if he is specifically God the Father or God the Son. Well, I'm assuming God the Father, because then we had the Son of Man come to the Ancient of Days, right? Most believe it to be God the Father. The white garments and the white hair stress the eternal character of God the Father. Daniel 7:13 seems to make a distinction between the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man. And this supports the idea the Ancient of Days is God the Father, not God the Son. Yeah. His throne was a fiery flame. This was a brilliant manifestation of God's splendor and the fiery heat of his judgment. There seems to be something lava-like in the stream of fire pouring out from the throne. And it was like a river of vast destructive power. And we saw this fiery type of imagery in Ezekiel as well, relating to God.
I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit within my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near to one of those who stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things.
Those great beasts, which are four.
It sounded like Donald Trump for a second right there when he said those great beasts.
Those great beasts, which are four kings, which arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
So right there, tying it into the original dream with the rock.
Then I wished to know the truth about the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and its nails of bronze, which devoured, broke in pieces, and trampled the residue with its feet, and the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up, before which 3 fell, namely that horn which had eyes and a mouth, which spoke pompous words, whose
Daniel's having the
appearance
same
was
questions we
greater than
have.
his
Let's see
fellows.
if we get a good answer.
I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints and prevailing against them until the Ancient of Days came, and a judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High.
So this beast and the horns and all that stuff, they're going to be in power after what was the last beast before it? The winged beast, like a leopard. And we think the leopard represents the Greek Empire. So after the Greek Empire, whatever this is, if we're correct about the first 3, then we are in the fourth beast right now.
Came, and a judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High, and the time came for the saints to possess the kingdom. Thus he said,
The fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall...
Hey, Matrix. Oh, you're listening to me going through the book of Job. Oh, cool. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Job was super interesting. Job had a lot of meat in there. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah. Feel free to come back. We just hopped into Daniel, so Daniel's also really interesting. So yeah, hope you enjoy.
The fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces. The 10 horns are 10 kings, who shall arise from this kingdom.
Okay.
And another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings.
The fourth beast. Okay, wait, where was it? The 10 horns are 10. Okay, the 10 horns are 10 kings. And are they kings in succession, or are they rising as 10 kings at the same time in different areas? Because it's devouring the whole earth. So these 10 kings are going to be, all over.
He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints
supposed to be the
of the
Antichrist?
Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his
Change
hand
times and law.
for a time and times and half a time. But the court shall be seated, and they shall take away his dominion,
Ooh.
to consume and destroy it forever. Then the kingdom and dominion, and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven, shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him.
This is the end of the account. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly troubled me, and my countenance changed. But I kept the matter in my heart.
So it was explained to a certain extent. The exact names of the civilizations weren't given. I mean, if you want to create some Back to the Future type paradoxes, if you don't want to create some Back to the Future type paradoxes, it's probably best that it wasn't stated. Let me see what my Bible's got to say about all of this. That was a lot. Okay, so ba-dum. Daniel's vision reveals a hostility waged by the little horn against the saints. The little horn's militaristic character is seen also in chapter 11, verse 13, 38, and 39, and particularly in Revelation. There, in the guise of a beast, this blasphemous enemy of the saints prevails for 42 months. The connection between Daniel's little horn and John's beast from the sea is unmistakable. The 3 common interpretations as to the 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom. The fourth beast is Greece, and the 10 horns are 10 divisions of the Grecian Empire. The fourth beast is Rome, and the 10 horns are the fragments of the Roman Empire. The fourth beast is a revived Roman Empire, and the 10 kings are members of a future realm. Another referred to the little horn of verse 8. Okay, so I guess in 8 we're getting another little horn. This king will subdue 3 others, blaspheme God, persecute the saints, attempt to change time and law, and dominate the saints for a limited time. Time and times and half a time. Time can refer to a year times 2 years, and half a time to 1/2 of a year, for a total of 3.5 years. Some suggest that the expression does not indicate a specific number of years, but instead a period of time that God, in His mercy, would shorten. The dominion of the little horn will come to a violent end when he submits to the court of God. The kingdom of God, governed by His saints, will exercise rule over all the earth. Let me see what this commentary's got to say, because this is a lot. Here the little horn of the fourth beast again speaks pompous words. The final human dictator we call the Antichrist will be categorized by this boastful, blasphemous speech. Because of the distinction between the fourth beast and the horn, some conjecture that the beast of Revelation 13 is not the Antichrist, but his government or administration. If this is so, it is a small distinction. To a large extent, a man does represent and personify an entire government or system. When we think of Germany in the 1930s and 40s, the figures of Hitler as an individual and Nazi Germany as a state are virtually the same. I watched till the beast was slain. The rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away. The fourth beast is destroyed, and the others may continue, but without dominion of their own. When Jesus sets up His kingdom, the empire of the Antichrist will be crushed completely. Yet some nations will continue into the millennium. I knew they were going to bring up the millennium, because the Son of Man came to rule over, right? So I'm assuming that they're thinking that it's going to be the millennium here on earth, this commentary. One like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. The title Son of Man was a favorite self-designation of Jesus, used more than 80 times in the 4 Gospels. Yeah, it sounds cool. I would use it too. He receives all dominion previously held by the beasts, and his reign will be permanent. The dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away. The reign of Jesus does not last 1,000 years. It is permanent. However, Jesus will rule over this earth before it is remade, with Satan bound for 1,000 years. The divine interpretation of the dream shows that the vision covers the same material as Nebuchadnezzar's vision in Daniel 2, which also described the rise of 4 empires, which are succeeded by the kingdom of God. Yet Daniel's vision was different, seeing the kingdoms from God's perspective, not man's. And we got to see a little bit more of the characteristics of these kingdoms. Nebuchadnezzar saw the present and the future world empires in the form of a stately and noble stature of a man. Here God shows how He regarded them, as ferocious and wild animals who devour and conquer without conscience. When man writes his own history, there is often much self-congratulation, and man seems to be on the verge of paradise. When God writes human history, a different vision is presented. Jesus is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Yet he primarily represents himself not as a ferocious animal, but as a lamb. There was much interest. We have a different vision coming up in chapter 8. So, and we're already at an hour. So I feel like that's going to take a good amount of time as well, interpreting and whatnot. So I'm going to cut this. We're just going to do 6 and 7 today. So where was I? There was much interest in all these 4 beasts, but Daniel was especially interested in the 4th, most terrible beast, and especially about its conspicuous horn. Exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and its nails of bronze, the 4th beast interested Daniel because of its great destructive power. That's interesting. The teeth of iron, Rome, the picture, the statue. But what about bronze? Gold, silver, brass, iron. Metals were important. Nails of bronze. Why bronze? The 4th beast interested Daniel because of its great destructive power, because of the conspicuous horn, and because of its fight against God's people. If this horn represents the Antichrist and he fights against the saints, it does not necessarily mean that the church will be on earth as a target of the Antichrist during the tribulation. We can say not necessarily, because saints can indicate the church or a Jewish remnant in the tribulation. There's a lot here, and like I said with the statue, the dream with the statue, I want to do a separate video. So I want to do a separate video on this as well, because there's a lot. Like people can do like a whole not even just one sermon, but like a whole series of sermons on this, you know? The 4th beast shall be a 4th kingdom on earth. This initial description of the 4th beast fits well with the Roman Empire of ancient history. It did devour the whole civilized earth and dominate it completely for about 1,000 years. 10 horns are 10 kings who shall rise from this kingdom. These 10 kings do not have a literal fulfillment in the Roman Empire of history. If they are literal, they are still in the future. Or is there another kingdom in the past that has already a literal fulfillment of this 10 kings? I don't know. The only way to say this has been fulfilled is to spiritualize the prophecy and take away its plain sense. Is that true? Or has there been something with 10 kings in the past? I'm not sure. I don't know. Many, like John Calvin, merely spiritualized this. He insisted that what happened in this chapter was fulfilled in history up until the time of Jesus' first advent, and supposed that the 10 horns merely represent a multiplicity of the kings under the Roman Empire, and believed that the conspicuous horn was Julius Caesar and the other horns and the other Caesars who succeeded him. And for Calvin, the book were open referred to the preaching of the gospel. The conspicuous horn, but that came after the 10 horns. And 3 of them, it replaced 3 of them. So, I don't get the ordering here. It makes no sense, right? Julius Caesar and the other Caesars who succeeded him. It should have been the Caesars and then Julius Caesar after if he was the talking horn. But that's not the case. So the ordering there doesn't really make sense to me. But if there are 10 toes and 10 horns, and associated with the rule of this final world ruler, there is no good reason to spiritualize what God has said in at least 4 different places. The same spiritualizing problems apply if one believes that this is fulfilled in the early church and the passing of the Roman Empire. Unlike Calvin, who saw fulfillment before the advent of Jesus, the conspicuous horn must be the Antichrist arising out of some group of 10 nations that is in some way part of the restored Roman Empire. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High. The little horn spoke pompous, blasphemous words, perhaps like the fascist creed of Italy. I believe in Rome eternal, the mother of my fatherland, and in Italy, her firstborn, who was born of her virgin womb by the grace of God, who suffered under the barbarian invader, was crucified, slain, and buried, who descended into the sepulchre, and rose from the dead in the 19th century, who ascended to heaven in her glory in 1918 and 1922, who seated at the right hand of Mother Rome, who will come thence to judge the quick and the dead. I believe in the genius of Mussolini and in our Holy Father, fascism, and the communion of its martyrs, and the conversion of the Italians, and the resurrection of the empire. Amen. Holy. This speaks of a cruel and systematic pressure coming from the word to wear away, to wear out, as friction wears clothes or shoes. She persecutes the saints of the Most High. Shall persecute the saints of the Most High. And then we're getting into that. Okay. The persecution and times. She shall intend to change times and law. This little horn will intend to change times and law, perhaps as at the French Revolution, where radicals wanted to institute a 10-day work week and declared 1792 as year one. Seventh-day Adventists have historically taught, hey, I'm Seventh-day Adventist, by the way, have historically taught that it was the papacy which changed the times and law by moving the Lord's Day from Saturday to Sunday. Some traditional Seventh-day Adventists therefore regard Sunday worship as the sign of the Antichrist. Yeah, we go to church on Saturday, the Sabbath, right? Like the Jews. Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time and times and half a time. The power of the little horn over the saints is limited. It will last for 3.5 years. Time and times and half a time. Is that how you can interpret that? It's 3.5 years? This phrase is used in Revelation 11, 12, and 13 to refer to half of the last 7-year period. A man's rule on this earth. Okay, and that backs up this claim here. Yeah, this deserves the whole video on its own, man. This is a lot. They shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever. In the day of persecution, by this blasphemous ruler, the Messiah will establish his kingdom for his people. That's a lot. That's a lot. I don't even know where to start breaking it down. I mean, we went through a couple interpretations, but I want to actually go through it and dig. I mean, I don't want to take other people's word for it. I want to dig in and figure it out. Okay, or just look at multiple people's interpretations and come to a consensus as best as we can. So we're not gonna do an 8 today. We'll stop here. We're already at 1 hour 17 minutes. So like I said, I want to look into this at a later date in a separate video, because it's very interesting, really interesting stuff. So, I mean, I've seen a few documentaries about all this, so maybe I can put together some clips and stuff, and we'll see how it goes. So, hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. I thought it was really interesting. But again, a lot more still to dig deep and look into. People's thoughts and opinions and interpretations are constantly evolving when they're looking into stuff like this, because they're just interpretations. And, you know, there's many knowledgeable scholars who have different interpretations. So it is definitely going to take a lot of studying. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, we'll look into this at a later date in greater detail. For now, we'll stop for now. And tomorrow we'll jump into chapter 8 with a vision of the ram and the goat. So another vision. So we'll see how that turns out. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. Stick around for tomorrow for that other vision. And like I said, we'll talk about these visions, about these 4 kingdoms at a later date in greater detail. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys tomorrow for chapter 8. All right. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.